Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest and exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Welcome to another edition of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. That, my friends, is a Jeep that looks the way a Jeep is supposed to look. And if anybody is an expert on Jeeps, it's our friend Mike from Badgerland Offroad. Mike, what is the essence of what you guys do at Badgerland?
We like to build a Jeep that you can drive every day and take out on the weekends and have fun with it.
So you're building custom Jeeps. What is your specialty at Badgerland?
My specialty is to put lift kits on, wheels, tires. We also do regearing.
How does the process work? Someone comes to you, they have the Jeep of their dreams in their head. What do they need to bring to you as far as ideas?
A lot of times you don't even have to bring an idea if you're unsure, but if you have an idea, we can help put it together or swing you in a different direction if it's not really what you want out of it. You know, we can always make it what you really expect to have.
What do you see most? You seeing folks that want to take a Jeep and really, you know, ramp it up and amp it up, or are you seeing folks that just want to make little changes?
A lot of it want to ramp it up. They want to make it look really cool, but yet, you know, if they want to go out on the weekends and have fun, they can. You're
in the area, you're around Chicagoland,
yep,
and around Milwaukee and stuff like that. So what kind of clientele are you seeing up there?
Oh man, we see everybody. I mean, everybody from your hardworking person to guys that own their own businesses to, you know, factory owners, things like that. We see everything.
Those are the folks that want a Jeep that goes well on the road, using it during the week, but then they want to take it off-roading. So what are some of the really important considerations you keep in mind when you're modifying a Jeep for them?
Biggest thing, like especially for off-roading, is the suspension. We make sure we get a suspension system that can handle both on and off-road, because there are definitely some that are just for off-road and really don't want that for road driving.
Yeah, and then what are some of the hardest things about keeping it comfortable for folks on the road if it's their daily driver?
For us, springs and shocks are the biggest things that make it the most comfortable.
And what are some of the add-ons? What are some of the things that you really enjoy doing to these vehicles and some of the things that really make them pop as a cool custom vehicle?
The wheels and tires, I think, is one of the biggest things that make them pop. Obviously, you know, you can add the color there, you can add the look, the aggressiveness, and also fenders make a huge deal too, because stock fenders just don't look the best.
You said that you've got folks that are experienced Jeepers and other folks coming to you that are brand new at the game. So how are you able to steer some of those folks that may not quite know what they're looking for?
Usually it starts with the question, what you plan on using the Jeep for? And if they say they want to use it for off-roading, then I know how to start the build. If they said, I just want the look, then we also know which way to go. We know to push the tires, wheels, fenders, bumpers, because the suspension system ain't quite as important then.
And sometimes they might come in with an idea. They may not be the best idea, so how do you handle that?
We try to still figure out which direction they're going, because that's always the key. Because once you figure out where they're going, then it's easier to figure out what you want to sell. And you know, if they want to be that weekend warrior, that's where I really like, because I like to build the Jeep that can handle everything.
Of course, Mike, you're the mechanical end of things, really the nuts and bolts of how all this works. But when it comes to style, your better half here, Jenny, you know all about style. So what are some considerations you need to take in when you're building somebody's perfect Jeep?
Really, it's just all their personality and what their end goal is with it. Daily driving it, if they want to off-road it, it's their personality. I mean, they have to drive it every day. They want to show it off. It's their hard-earned money that's going into this vehicle. It's an investment. So everything on it needs to match exactly what they want.
What kind of time do you spend with a client once they come to you with ideas for a Jeep?
It's really never-ending, from that first phone call to that meeting and consultation till it's finished. We're there always by email, phone call, in person. So it's from start to finish and after.
And how satisfying is it when you roll that Jeep out for them for the first time?
It is amazing to see what they had in their mind and what we can do for them and put it in front of them. I mean, their smile says it all.
And what does that say about the Jeep world? You know, folks, every Jeep is different. Every Jeep is unique. You never see two alike unless they're right off the showroom floor.
Yeah.
What does that say about Jeepers and Jeeps?
Oh, Jeep people are amazing. I mean, a huge reason why we're in this and why we stay in this, because the people. I mean, it doesn't get any better.
Obviously, you've been out on the trail on the way here.
A little dirty.
This is your vehicle, yeah? Yeah. What is it about Jeeps that you love so much?
Being able to go anywhere, anytime we want. I mean, just hop off the pavement and the dirt. And I mean, we have purpose-built rigs. He daily drives his. I only off-road mine and drive it to and from work. But being able to do that, there is no comparison.
And Mike told me you love doing the soft top stuff.
I do.
Yeah. What's tricky about installing one of those, and what are some of the nuances of getting it right?
Well, I mean, there's some components that are in these that, you know, if you don't get it right, your top's not going to be on right. And I mean, that's also an investment. I mean, it's a top on your Jeep, so just getting it right the first time. The customer doesn't have time to deal with that. That's what I'm for. You know, they're working hard to pay for that, so I'm working hard to put it on for them.
And you have folks that come to you for little tweaks and little additions to their Jeep. How many folks keep coming back and keep adding and keep adding and keep adding?
Most people come back. I mean, we just treat them like they deserve to be treated, and they come back and just add more things as they can.
Well, when it comes to style and off-road performance, nobody does it better than Badgerland Offroad. You can find them at badgerlandoffroad.com. We shall return with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings in just a minute.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. Borla, the world's most winning exhaust. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. And by Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system.
You are taking a rocket ride with Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. And we are talking about Oldsmobiles, and not your father's Oldsmobile. John, we're talking high performance parts here. Who is your focus at Rocket Racing and Performance? Who's buying your stuff?
Well, we have people that go on the street. They want to have good performance at the street, go to burger night, cruise night, stuff like that. And then we also have customers that want to go to the drag strip and beat up on the Chevys and the Fords.
What kind of horsepower are we talking? What are folks doing out there?
Well, we have street cars that are running our 212 series ahead that are making upwards of 500 to 700 horsepower. And then if we got guys that want to do 900 plus, we have our 253 series CNC ported head.
And let's talk about that. It's a great looking piece here, and what sets it apart from, say, a stock head or some of the other stuff that's out there?
The stock head doesn't have a symmetrical port, which we have here. It's not so much always about CFM numbers, it's always about how the air flows into the port, into the cylinder to make horsepower. The other thing is we got thick decks that hold head gaskets real nice, and then we also have really good shaft rocker systems for stability of valve train. If you can't keep the valve train stable, you can't make horsepower.
And you didn't just build it up and make it beefier. We're talking about the quality of flow as well.
Absolutely. We're not always about bigger is better as far as size of the port. You also have to look at the air quality. Just because the cylinder head flows a big, huge number doesn't mean it's going to make big, huge horsepower. So, which all of these products that we have and we test on our own car, we run them on our in-house dyno, and we make sure that the products deliver what we preach.
And it all starts with the intake manifold. Now, this is a prototype, so it's a little bit rough, but tell me what makes the intake manifold special.
High volume plenum and a good, smooth transitional runner. And that particular manifold there is a 4500 Dominator flange. Also, for the guys that are in serious performance, that water neck on there is a Chevrolet water neck. So there's a very large selection of water necks if you want to run the dragster, door car, street car, whatever you want to do. The selection of thermostat housings are plentiful.
So flexibility is important for you as well.
Absolutely.
And a companion piece with the intake manifold here, the Valley cover too, that's got your insignia on it. It means you machine that yourself.
That is correct. This is a 3/16 billet aluminum 6061 Valley cover that closes off the valley between the cylinder head, which is divorced from the intake manifold. So if you want to do work to the intake manifold or do some other things, you don't have to open up the valley.
And moving on to the crank, which is enormous.
This is where we have street guys that are running this crankshaft and are putting it in OEM blocks. A lot of the stuff that we have here is backwards retrofittable into an OEM block. If a guy wants to get into that range of the 500 to 600 horsepower, but he doesn't want to put on girdles and studs and straps and all kinds of other things, which we recommend getting towards that level, the billet crank is a very strong piece of the foundation for that. Back when Oldsmobiles were made, the strength of the block, they relied on the strength of the crankshaft. That's why they had 3-inch mains.
And you brought a rod with you to show us what you do there. Now, what makes that piece unique?
That's a 4340 rod that goes with this crankshaft, and the RPM potentials of that can handle up with the 2000 series bolt, can go upwards of 1100 horsepower with that rod.
Unbelievable. Now, you have the rollers here and the valves. I know that quality is so important to you, so how does quality work into how you make these?
These are American lifters. That particular set of lifters there goes with our block. And we also have these lifters available with no needle bearings. No needle bearings mean no needle bearing failure. Customers that use those are running very high spring pressures, or they use them on things like drag week, stuff like that. This particular valve here is a 171 valve. This is a 2200 valve, which is used in our CNC version head. And with the solid roller applications, we use titanium retainers. All cylinder heads get the spring seat locators, and all the springs we use are American made.
And your centerpiece here, the block you brought in here, it's a gorgeous looking piece.
Again, was designed and developed in-house. We use a proprietary gray iron material, has 4-bolt mains, 1 through 5, splayed caps, proprietary oiling system, a universal Buick Olds Pontiac bell housing. So when you want to do your overdrive transmission swap, you don't have to get conversion setups and things like that. It has dual feed crossovers, so the lifters pump up faster, the oil galleys fill faster, you don't have cold first startup rattling.
John, we know there's no substitute for cubic inches, so what kind of cubic inches can you get out of that?
You can get upwards of about 540 cubic inches.
My goodness.
They'll go 400 bore, and the block is already clearance for a 4.5-inch stroke. And the other thing it's got that's very unique to anything in Oldsmobile is solid handrails, which adds to the structural integrity of the block and rigidity. Also is Siamese bore. On a typical OEM block, you're really only limited to about a 4185 reliably, 4250 with hard block, but then you still gamble with thin cylinder walls and everything else. Where this block, at 400 bore, you have a minimum wall of 200.
That's incredible. Now I notice here on the main cap there, I'm seeing for the oil pump, it's a little different opening than I've seen before in an OEM piece.
That is correct. This is a CNC ported high flow cavity. It's only about half that size with the OEM cap, where this fits the actual profile of the Oldsmobile oil pump.
Quality for you starts with the design.
Right, we use the latest and greatest software from Mastercam that we use for doing all of our CNC and design work on the cylinder heads and all the other billet products that we make.
Now, a testament to your workmanship here, I took a look at these bearings here, and they both look brand new to me. I thought you were bringing new parts, but that's not the case.
The bearing on the left is a brand new bearing. The bearing on the
this one's
right
brand new.
Is a bearing that was done with many, many dyno pulls in 3 seasons on the track, seeing almost 8,000 RPM. And as you can see, the bearing looks just like brand new.
And why is that? Why does this last so long in one of your blocks?
Well, one is the proprietary oiling system, but number 2 is the rigidity of the block and the rigidity of the crankshaft and rotating foundation. In an OEM block, when you're getting about 550 to 600 horsepower, you don't get bearings that come out like this. You know, the edges are starting to get copper showing and stuff like that, and customers will have to freshen up their motors every year, maybe 2 years, depending on how hard they're using them. So with the billet cranks and the rods, that stuff just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, needless to say, Rocket Racing and Performance is your one-stop shop for everything Oldsmobile. If you want to street it, if you want to take it to the track, check them out on the web. We shall return with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, so do not go anywhere.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, coming to you from Borla Commerce Park.
Welcome back to Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now, if you've ever had to jump a GM vehicle like this one here, you know that all there is in the back here for a battery post is a tiny little bolt like this, and you just have a little bit of an area to grab onto. And Rod, you've experienced this in GM vehicles for a long, long time. Take a look at this one. This one's rounded off, trying to get it off or putting jumper cables on it, rounded it off, and it's not turning at all. So what are your options at this point to get this problem rectified?
Well, if you're at this stage, then you'd have to make a mistake and grab a pair of pliers.
And if you ground that or touch the other terminal, you're in big, big trouble.
Correct.
Gotcha. Well, you have a solution to all this, which is the reason you're here, and it's simply called the Better Battery Bolt. Now, show me what this inspired.
Basically, born out of frustration, this battery bolt, all you need to install it is a 1/4-inch ratchet. No longer do you need to look for a 8mm open face or a 5/16 socket.
No guesswork, and you're not going to round it off like that.
Nope, you just need a 1/4-inch ratchet, and the bolt itself becomes the socket.
That's fantastic. And of course, the main feature being once you put it on, like we see here, you have much more of a gripping surface.
Yes, it's ribbed, so you can take a pair of jumpers.
Let's compare it with the before here. And look here, this little bolt, you barely get it on. How many times have you done this? You're beside the road and you're under pressure and you bump it and it pops right off. And over here, that is seated on there and that's not going anywhere because you've got the rib surface.
Correct.
You grab onto these alligator clips like that. It's fantastic. And tell me what it's made of and how durable is it?
It's made of sintered metal and it's been torque tested to high specifications. So if you break one of these, it means you're torquing too much to protect the threads of your battery.
Oh, no kidding. Very cool. You thought of everything. It's the simplest idea, and it's something I wish I'd have thought of. It just makes sense. And even you've thought of installing it, and you've also thought of protecting it. When you're just riding around here, you include these caps with each one.
Exactly. If it's in close quarters in your vehicle, the stud itself is 7/8 off the boot. But if you find that you're a little bit closer than that, you can use these covers to slip right on, and it protects from any contact with anything else in the vehicle.
If some vibration or something like that, you don't want any contact
Correct.
with the battery. Very cool. And now you have a new installation tool as well, which I know is going to come in handy in lots of other applications.
Exactly. So basically, this is now the socket. All you need is a ratchet.
Yep.
So now we're coming out with a composite ratchet that's non-metallic.
Yep.
And is short enough that it will not ground across the post.
That's perfect. And if you hit anything else on the car, you're not going to ground it on the vehicle and everything.
Fender wells, some of the positive sides are on the fender side.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me. Should be the negative side on the fender side. But if you do have that, you can use the new composite wrench and you will not ground out.
Well, this is all about safety, and it's all about saving your vehicle. I mean, what are some of the consequences if you end up grounding out or shorting out the batteries you're installing?
ECU can go, and that's expensive. Some of the 50 amp lugs that are in the vehicles, those are expensive to replace. So anything electronic these days in vehicles, they're expensive to replace.
It's not just for jumping your car, you've also found other niche markets for this as well.
Right, if you have an antique vehicle and you want to store that vehicle and you have a battery in that vehicle, you can clip on a trickle charger to the better battery bolt without having to remove the battery from the vehicle.
And then you'll ensure that thing stays connected the entire time and you always get full charge. You can be safer when you're installing your battery and when you're jumping it. Makes life a whole lot easier. Check them out at betterbatterybolt.com. We shall return with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings in just a few.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM bit radios since 1977. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Offroad Air Buddy, air up your tires fast. And by Tribotex, make your engine last longer. Time now for the lowdown with Magic Creeper.
You know, it's always been important to support small businesses, and now more than ever, that holds true. Well, this is a perfect small business here. It's a great business, Magic Creeper. You've seen them before on the show, but you may not have known they're a small business out of the Pacific Northwest, actually a woman-owned business. And because they are so small, they know what it's like to be the customer, so they want you to be satisfied. In fact, with the Magic Creeper, they put all their products through extensive real-world testing. They know what works and what doesn't. They use the product at home, around the shop, and they give it to friends to test out to see what works and what doesn't. They compare it to other creepers that are out there, and nothing compares, and Magic Creeper makes sure that they're going above and beyond in making a creeper that does more than any of the other creepers out there. And they make sure it's durable. This thing is going to last. The Magic Creeper is easy to clean. When you're done with it, you can get all the mud and the dirt off of it very easily just by spraying it with a cleaner and wiping it off. And again, durability. We've tried to poke it, we've tried to cut it, and this thing is pretty puncture-proof, very durable. It's going to last you a long, long time. We have one here that we've used in the shop for years and years and years, and it is still holding up to the everyday abuse that we put it through here at Motorhead Garage. Folks at Magic Creeper pride themselves in their quality and craftsmanship. They want to meet and exceed your expectations, and they want to give you a product of high quality, good value, and they want to live up to their ultimate mission, and that mission is to make your life easier at home and at work every day. Check them out at magiccreeper.com. It's the only place you can find the original Magic Creeper. There are lots of imitators. Do not accept any of those. Check out the real Magic Creeper. Tribotex, it's kind of voodoo in a bottle. It does a lot for your car, but how it works is very sciencey.
Yeah.
And Brian Hansen, you're the lead engineer, so you speak layman too, so tell me how it works.
All right. Tiny particles, nanoparticles, not even observable under a microscope. They have a sticky side and a slippery side. These sticky sides need a lot of force, a lot of impact to cause them to fuse to a metal surface. Once these particles build up layer by layer, they create a slippery surface, which reduces that friction or impact that is used to apply it. So they only build up as much as they need, only where there's enough force. So let's take an example. We got a journal and a bearing rocking around. It's going to build up in those areas that are knocking, and it will slowly recenter that journal and bearing, and there's no more friction or impact that can apply any more nanoparticles in that area, and they just travel through the rest of the engine.
That's amazing. And here's just where it needs to go.
Only where it needs to go. It's a ceramic coating that self-applies.
Incredible. And you want a clean surface to begin with, ideally. So what's the best way to make sure that surface is clean and ready for Tribotex to adhere to it?
We recommend when you change your oil beforehand to flush it with a solvent, a cleaner. We've been developing one called BR1, and this cleans the metal surfaces. As your engine oil degrades, it can build up sludge or carbon deposits, and you don't want the nanoparticles to stick to those because those can fall off the engine. You want a nice clean metal surface, and those particles will stick there and stay for the life of the engine.
And BR1 improves itself in all kinds of other ways. What are some other applications? You've told me some of them. They're amazing.
Yeah, it's a non-toxic solvent. It's safe for using around the house. You get anything that's gooey or sticky, dissolves it very nice. You want to keep it away from your paints though. It loves to eat resins, but in an engine, resins are made from the oil degrading, and this stuff will just dissolve it and flush it out when you change your oil.
Well, Tribotex works great, and it works even better when paired with BR1. You can check them both out at tribotex.com. Well, that music indicates that it is time for us to hit the road and end this episode of Motorhead Garage. We're sure glad you came along. And by the way, if you have a product you want to see on the show, email Jeff at masterstv.com. Won't you join us next week? We'll be here. We hope you are too, here on Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. See ya.